Coming out of a massive recruiting weekend at Miami, not only did you have the first round of official visitors, you had Mario Cristobal 7-on-7 big man camp event. What's going on with these top Miami Hurricanes recruiting targets?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and also co-host of Locked On ACC. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On this episode, we will talk about a couple of Miami's top targets who were at the 7-on-7 event over the weekend. We're making their official visits later this month, including a couple of area cornerbacks who I'm sure Mario Cristobal would love to have down here. We are going to talk about where Miami sits heading into the second weekend of official visits coming up. We're also going to talk on this episode about the latest on Simeon Barrow. Is Miami closer to coming to a positive resolution with the defensive tackle who transferred here from Michigan State and then may have decided he didn't want to be here, but does he want to be here now after all? We have so much to get to on this episode with so many things to tackle. We had to bring in the man, the myth, the legend, show favorite, Larry Blustein, our boy Blue. Blue, how are you?
I'm good. You know, this starts the entire 30 days of summer, and everybody will be busy, you know, rolling out the red carpet for these kids, you know, whether it be the 25, 26, 27, even some of the incoming freshmen kind of want to set the tone. And, you know, there's caravans of kids going all over the country. And, you know, Miami is one of the destinations, obviously, for a lot of these caravans, especially in light of what's happened in the offseason with the portal and then beefing up the team a little bit. So yeah, the summer's you know, it's one of those things, and you know, you and I talk about it because when the season ends in December, everyone says, "Oh, at least the season's over, things get easier for you." Not really. This is a very busy time. You know, I had an opportunity to go to Miami yesterday, you know, for their line camp and their 7-on-7, which Booker T. Washington and Coach Ice Harris won at the end of the day. And but you know, you got to do these things, and then kids and their parents, and that's, you know, those are the things that you look forward to. You know, the camaraderie between, you know, kids who play with and against one another that, you know, join forces. They had 20 schools yesterday and 250 linemen. So yeah, it's a great thing. And unfortunately they had construction on the one side of the building, so they had to go in all the way around. So it through the Watsco Center area. So you know how far, you know how far that was, you know, especially for an old OG like me to walk all that way. But I was fine.
Well, okay, you talk about that 7-on-7 event that Booker T. Washington came out victorious in. I want to talk to you about one of their standout players, Blue, because 4-star cornerback Ben Hanks Jr. is actually a Florida Gators legacy, but Miami's had a lot of traction in this young man's recruitment. 4-star corner out of Booker T., 6'1", 170 pounds. He was one of the standout guys out there on Sunday, Blue. What did you see from Ben Hanks?
Yeah, I've been watching him since he was in 8th grade, and he attended the RAL Academy and then transferred over to Booker T, you know, who doesn't have an 8th grade. So, and obviously his dad is a huge influence in the Overtown area, has been for years and years, went to Miami High, and as you mentioned, went to University of Florida. One of the guys at Steve Spurrier, who had his jersey retired, actually gave it to Ben Hanks so he could wear it. So that's pretty prestigious. And, yeah, he's a big-time kid, you know, and to quote one of the coaches at Miami, he's the type of guy you win big-time games and championships with. And he's a long guy. He's taught, you know, obviously he's going to get bigger and stronger and get in the weight room a lot more. You know, his nutrition will amp up when he gets to the next level. You know, he's going to put on 25 pounds, maybe close out to 190, 195, by the time he gets out. But yeah, he is a type of guy. He's got great, great coordination. He flocks to the ball real quick. He's long. He's just, when you have him beat, he's going to stick that big long arm in there and break up a pass. And yeah, he's quality kid from the beginning. He's got speed. He's got runs a little bit of track, but he's also got a great knowledge of the game. Being around his dad, and his dad, and as well as I do. When you're a son of a football coach, just by osmosis, you learn more and more from watching film, from dad saying on the way home from youth football games, "Hey, listen, when you do this, you need to be there." So, yeah, he's a great young man too,
and a sought after player, Blue. So he had, when he competed in that event on Sunday at Miami, he had just flown back down from Louisville, where he had an official visit with the Cardinals that started May 31st. So up next for him, he's got a visit to Florida on June 7th. He's visiting Georgia on June 14th, visiting Florida on June 18th, and then he's got his official visit. He'll be back in Coral Gables on June 21st. That's a murderer's row, Blue, of competition, teams that Miami's competing with for Ben Hanks. Do you think the Hurricanes are in a good spot for him, though?
I do, just being a hometown guy, and there's a lot to say for legacies. Maurice Crum, his kid went to Notre Dame. And, you look down the line, a lot of these kids, whose sons, obviously they're coming up on a big legacy for the 26 class. And Ty Wise is a son who's arguably the best center in the country. I don't care what it is, at 6'4", 295 pounds. So you kind of want to try to keep those kids close to home. But Ben being local, 20 minutes from the University of Miami campus where he lives, and a lot of people that he knows down here, and his mom and dad can and the family can get an opportunity, to drive the 20 minutes rather than have to go to wherever, Gainesville or Georgia. I think that's going to play a big part in the fact that Miami, their secondary coach is really, really good. Got a chance to talk with him yesterday, and I think he's good. And those are the type of things that get you, and especially because where Miami's climbing to, a lot of these kids want to be aboard, on that train as it pulls out of the station. So I think they got a really, really good shot with him, but they got to be diligent. And they got to understand that, like you said, wherever he's going to some places, he's going to go to Georgia. He's going to go to Florida, especially Florida, who will roll out the welcome mat with him. And, his dad being, a pretty good player there back in the day. So we'll see. I think from the standpoint of what Miami offers and what he offers to Miami, is a great fit.
Another top corner, Blue, who did compete the other day, and this is from Mario Cristobal's alma mater, Columbus High School, talking about Bryce Fitzgerald, 4-star corner, 6 foot tall, 6 foot and a half, 172 pounds. What did you see from him on Sunday?
Yeah, arguably one of the best athletes. I mean, he's could play on both sides of the ball. Special teams kids, basketball freak. He was part of that state championship team at Berlin Jesuit a couple years back, and really good guy. Loves the game. Certainly a kid that they get. Anybody gets. On their campus and on the team, that there's a lot of avenues, like the Elijah Lofton, the Swiss Army knife type guys. One day you could put him at safety, one day you could put him at corner. He's got loose hips. He's got great vision and anticipation. He'll hit like a truck, but he knows the game from playing wide receiver and being on the offensive side. It's sort of like, a pitcher and a catcher. If catchers who are former pitchers obviously know a little bit more, about that situation and, have that feel for the game. But yeah, Bryce, different level type of kid. And another guy that easily, you talk to Coach Dave Dunn and he raves about him, just not only what he does on the field, but what he does off the field as well.
Oh, we got Larry Blustein with us. We're only getting started on this episode of Locked On Canes. Coming up next, are we getting closer to a resolution with Simeon Barrow? And if he does stay, is that going to be a smooth reintegration with the team. We'll talk about that and so much more when we come back. Keep it locked right here on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And if you're a small business owner, I already know you're keeping it locked to LinkedIn Jobs, because when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making this Monday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. It's called Locked On Sports Today, and it's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Well, we have our boy Blue, Larry Blustein, with us. 560 WQAM in Miami, Six Ring Canes podcast, does an incredible job covering high school, college sports around the area. So, Blue, we start to see stories like this in this new era of college football, in this era where, transferring is easier than it's ever been, NIL out there. So Simeon Barrow, defensive tackle, had just transferred to Miami from Michigan State. Late last week, reports that he left South Florida and indicated to Miami teammates of his that he wasn't coming back, right? And then reports started to surface. He might end up at Mizzou. Is he going to leave? But how can he leave? Because he's already enrolled and matriculated, and the transfer portal's not currently open. So as the dust is starting to settle here, Blue, we're starting to get reports over the past 24 hours that this situation may be resolved very soon, and Simeon Barrow may end up staying at Miami. Now, if it does come to pass that way, Blue, my hope would be, obviously, Miami has hopefully a stronger culture than it's had in previous years, a strong locker room, strong leadership, and, everybody can, water under the bridge, mend fences, whatever you have to do, go out there and play like professionals, right? Would there be any concern that if it does resolve where Barrow is back, that there could be some hard feelings? How do you feel like the program would have to navigate this situation?
Well, you don't want the tail to wag the dog, that's for sure. Because if you start doing that and the kids are calling the shots, which they now are more than ever with the NIL and the portal and not having to sit out if they transfer, as a coach told me yesterday, it becomes a discipline problem when the rest of the guys are working their tails off and want to be here, that somebody comes in and then all of a sudden, has a freedom of just walking away like that and no repercussions. I think that they'll welcome him back with open arms because of the fact that they need him. You'd have to be foolish if you were a prospect like that not to come to Miami, especially with the ties that Mario Cristobal has to the NFL, especially because a lot of his kids from Oregon and being around all those guys at Alabama when he was there that went to that next level. He's got coaches. Come on, Jason Taylor and, all these guys that are down there and that could further your career. So I think when he takes a step back and maybe talks to family or whoever, they're going to figure that's a great spot for him. Now, whether it was taking him out of the region where he was at and a lot of family and a lot of people could see him, I can understand that. But if he makes a commitment like he did to this school here and they kind of banked on him and they got their meetings together and figured that he was going to be in the mix and say, hey, listen, we're going to be a much stronger team with him there because of his experience, his athleticism. So there's two sides of the coin. And certainly I think if Miami's moving forward and wants to get to that next level, they can't have this type of scenario. If kids want to be here, they're here. Too many of those players, if you look, especially with the current roster, want to be here, and they feel that Miami, this is a year where they could turn the corner. So I would hope, Alex, that, he did come back and kind of put his tail between his legs and said, listen, I'm, I left Michigan State. I'm kind of confused. Things happen so fast, and I'm sure that happened because that if you come down to this culture, everybody embraces you. So it's, and you got guys on the roster that are from all different walks of life. So it's not like he comes in here and he's, going to a different planet. You have a situation where it's Miami, weather's great all year round. There's always going to be, somebody at the at the facilities, coaches, anything you want to get into. I mean, even if it's, a homesickness or something like that, they've dealt with that stuff. So We'll see. I'd love to see him here. He's a great talent. He elevates the defense in a great way because they could do more with him and, put guys like Bain next to him and creates havoc. And so he has to figure this out for himself. He has to be committed to what everybody else is down there and can't be a distraction. And you know how that is. And but I think, I'd like to see him come back. If he doesn't, then that's his choice, and Miami moves on.
And if he doesn't come back, and again, I just want to reiterate, there's a lot of reporting now that indicates he's more than likely to come back, talking about Simeon Barrow. But, Blue, if he doesn't, how do you feel about Miami's depth at defensive tackle, right? Because you would know better than most, because there are players on that roster that are unproven at this level. You would know better than most if guys like Ahmad Moten, Josh Horton, Anthony Campbell, who came in last year, who transferred. I thought he looked pretty good in spring. You got guys coming in as true freshmen like Justin Scott and Artavius Jones, and you can play Armando Blunt inside as well. Does Miami have enough depth? And obviously you do have CJ Clark and Marley Cook, who transferred in as older guys. Is Miami going to be okay there if Barrow doesn't come back?
Well, you just mentioned 8 guys. So, to me, you got a situation where they're not going to fold up to 10. I mean, they have guys who are hungry. Yeah, they lack experience, but, that's going to be found on any team. And that's why it's important that if they are younger guys with less experience, at least they're surrounded by players that have been there, done that. So they're a little bit more eased. And not only is the coaching going to be a plus for them, but the experienced kids, who are, more of their peers are going to be. So to answer that, I think they'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's just, you can't have one person holding up the whole, the build of of the structure. And that's just the way it is. And like I said, a lot of fans and a lot of people down in Miami hope that he does come back. But if he doesn't, they'll be fine. They got, like you mentioned, they got a lot of young kids who, if they're surrounded by experience, like you mentioned, with Clark or, whoever is on that line, and plus the great coaching. And I think that the front seven potentially for Miami with the linebacking core and the defensive line is going to afford their defensive backs who are a lot, younger and inexperienced to become better. And I sure, you'd like to have that extra, piece, in the puzzle, but if you don't, you move on, and their build is, for the future. And certainly they've made great strides over the, last 2 years, as you and I alluded to, on one of your previous shows, that, this has been a process to revamp the entire roster. And I think they're, while they're not there, they're right. They're close enough to being, in the mix, I believe.
Yeah, and this Barrow saga that's been going on the last few days, it's unfortunate on all ends, because nobody really wins with all this. I mean, because he and his camp may have figured out that, hey, like, maybe we just didn't have this firm understanding of the rules. That, yeah, the NCAA is obviously very lenient now on transfers, but they still do have a transfer portal window, and there still are administrative rules where you're already taking classes somewhere, you're matriculated. you can't just transfer and take your scholarship with you at this point.
Sure.
Obviously Mizzou doesn't necessarily look great here. And I know, listen, I know they wouldn't be the only school that may have ever tampered. I know it happens all over the country, but it seems clear they were probably making impermissible contact, or allegedly making impermissible contact here. There's rumors about this agreement that he may have signed, Barrow or his father, with LSU, that said, hey, we're not going to commit to another SEC school. I'm not sure if that's like an actual legal permissible document. So there's just nobody really looks good right now with this whole saga, Blue.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose situation, really, because, especially because the microscope is so much on these transfers, like the Cam Wards and all these high-priced guys like Brown and Martinez and all these guys that Miami has landed, they were all under a microscope, and they're all guys that everybody wanted, and Barrow's no exception. So, people are watching the every move, and like I say, things are going to work out, whether it's here or wherever. I mean, obviously from a fan standpoint, he lifts his team, extreme, with his experience and his talent alone. And that's the thing, you have to understand, listen, when you make moves like that and you're a freshman, that's one thing. But when you've been around, people are looking at you. NFL teams are looking at you and saying, hey, you know what? If he's going to quit here, well, what are we going to see? And that may affect his draft status. People laugh and say, oh, no, that'll never happen. But you know what? As well as I do, no matter what professional league it is, everybody could run and everybody could throw and tackle, but the character is everything. And, whether it's by mistake or whatever people perceive, and the perception in billions of cases are what people have to go by and judge by.
Well, Miami's got another big weekend of official visits coming up on June 7th, including two of the top receivers in the country are going to be in. Miami's committed quarterback, Luke Nickel, will be on campus for his OV. Hopefully he does some recruiting out there. We got Larry Blustein with us, the man, the myth, the legend. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And I'm certainly not done yet, my friends, when it comes to our friends at I said friends a lot there. Our friends, our good friends at FanDuel are getting me through this postseason. And guys, my Florida Panthers, they are headed back to the Stanley Cup Finals. This year, I think, is when the Panthers finally get it done. They fell short last year. They're healthy this time around. Panthers versus Edmonton Oilers. You can get all the odds at FanDuel because it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. So if you want to take that Panthers game one bet, guys, that's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Folks, if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, you want to click the link below, try our Locked On Canes Insiders chat. Try it free for 14 days. I said you guys text messages, breaking news, recruiting scoops, transfer portal updates when that was a thing. It still kind of is, I guess. We'll get you ready for the season. I'll be at Legends Camp this Sunday. I'll be sending you guys updates from that. So check it out. Click the link below. Try Locked On Canes Insiders chat free for 14 days. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. There's always added value when Larry Blustein joins us. So, Blue, another big round of OVs coming up starting this Friday at Miami. Dallas Wilson and Jamie French are two of the top receivers in the country. I think Miami has a bit of an uphill climb for both of these young men. Of course, Wilson's committed to Oregon, has been for a long time. Miami's been working on the flip. Jamie French openly says he's got Miami in his top 3, which is good. But the problem is, he says Texas is number 1, LSU is number 2, Miami is number 3. So these are two excellent wide receivers who are visiting this weekend. Talk to me about these players and what Miami might have to do to convince them South Dade is the spot.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Wilson is a kid I got a chance to see 2 weeks ago. When I was on that little tour, I went to Armwood, saw Pringle, as I, excuse me, as I alluded to, and went all the way around. And to me, and I know people rate him as the best in the state. I think he's right there, along with Mills from Homestead, and certainly, a couple of other kids who are really at elite level. Dallas Wilson is one of those guys. He's a game changer, big time prospect that obviously a lot of people are on, and certainly somebody that has an opportunity to be really, really special. Now, does he want to be special on the West Coast, or where a lot of the football is really, the focus is going to be played now? Without the Pac-12, the focus now, as everybody's scattered, is going to have to be on the East and the Midwest. And I think if I'm making a decision, just like the Hilton kid, from Mandarin, who committed to USC, you kind of think to yourself, USC is not going to be, they're going to be a global program. They're going to play as far east as Penn State and Rutgers over the next couple of years. I think Miami's got a real good shot. I mean, the offense is wide open. You could see the quarterbacks that they have, the type of offense that they run, and with Coach Dawson, I think that with Jamie French is a kid who, Alabama was first in line. FSU was right there as well. And certainly he's kind of like, there's nothing not to like about Miami, but, they're going to have to work for guys like this, and both of them. And they're elite type of football players, but we'll see what happens on the visits. We'll see how they, especially if they stay through Sunday for Legends, and see some of the guys that who wore these uniforms in the past, that have elevated themselves to to Hall of Fame status, and to major prospects along the way. So tough to see what happens in some of these young men's minds, but you're going to get them on campus, which is huge. That's the one thing. At least once you get them on campus, then it's time to roll out the red carpet and, schmooze more than probably you would for the average guy. So, because they're elite players who could help your program elevate itself.
Speaking of elite players, Miami's going to have the top defensive lineman in the class on campus this week. Elijah Griffin, out of Savannah Christian Prep in Savannah, Georgia. He's, most of the trends have him at UGA, and Miami's fighting some heavy hitters. Now, Elijah Griffin was down early March, caught some spring football at Miami, seemed like a really good unofficial visit. He's coming back officially this week. So, Blue, what is it? I don't even know if you agree with this ranking, but what is it that makes Elijah Griffin 24/7 Sports' top-ranked defensive lineman in the class?
Yeah, produces, big, strong kid, very athletic, seeks down the ball, seeks down the person with the ball. He's a different level kid, smaller school. He comes out of, but that doesn't, you look back in the day, and here's the kid, Andre Wadsworth, who was a 5-time All-Pro guy, went to Florida Christian, so you never know how these kids, how they work out, but you can see, these colleges are not just going to, offer you and kind of fawn over you if you're not an elite kid. And he's a big time guy. And obviously Georgia, when you're in state like that, and there's a lot of pressure to stay, in state and say, hey, listen, compete, Miami's this, Miami's that, but we're Georgia, we're in the national hunt every second, so, but again, you get him down and wave, a Hall of Famer in front of him and say, hey, listen, this guy could teach you more than basically any college coach in the country, and this is a guy who, knows everybody. So if down the line, you're going to get to that next level, his recommendation, and Jason Taylor is, I can't throw that name around enough. And, I said that to a lot of kids yesterday, at the camp. I said, I know you guys never watched him play. You were probably 6, 7 years old when he retired. But put in a YouTube and watch this guy and watch what he knows. And, take a look at Dallas Turner, who was a first-round draft pick this year, somebody he worked with at St. Thomas Aquinas for 1 year. Nicholas Benito, somebody who turned into a draft pick in the NFL that he worked with for 2 years and showed him a few things. The proof is where it lies. And to me, if somebody, you come in there and work with somebody of that caliber every day, I think things change in your career, and he's got to be reminded of that. I know Georgia's got great coaching, but they don't have Hall of Famers like that.
Right. Well said as always here by Larry Blustein. Follow him on X at Larry Blustein. Blue, you on 560 tonight? When's the show this week?
Well, thanks to the Panthers winning, we are. So, they would have played tonight, but we're back on. A lot of football guests, a lot of high school coaches, college coaches are be coming in over the next couple weeks. Defending national champion Kaiser University head coach Miles Russ is going to join us. So he's a first-year head coach there. David Lake is going to join us as well from 24/7, talk a little bit of Hurricane football. So we're excited. Luke Cheney, excuse me, who's a up-and-coming guy in this profession, has been covering FAU football. So we're going to talk to him about that as well. So good show. Starts 6 o'clock right there on 560 WQAM, and I appreciate the plug.
Always. Larry Blustein does a fantastic job. Guys, if you enjoyed the show today, make sure to smash that like button. Even if you didn't enjoy the show, hit the like button anyway. It's free. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Locked On Canes. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to the audio version, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.